I would like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting, August 21st, 2025. Can I get roll call, please?
Here.
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 Thank you. Next, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, I thought some of you guys were going to. Next, we move to the approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I'll second.
Got a second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda passes. Next, we have the approval of the meeting minutes from July 17th, 2025. I assume some people have read them or been read, and do I have a motion for approval?
Chair,
Mr. Ruger?
if I may, I do have a correction.
Sure.
Very important. My name's Steve Brugger, not Wendy Steve Brugger.
Oh,
I'd like that corrected, please.
Okay. We'll get that corrected. Thank you for yeah, it would have been bad if it went for continuous times throughout the year, you know. Okay, after that correction, do I hear a motion for approval?
I so move.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is on the consent agenda. There's two cases, case 25-5100 and case 24-5330. Do I have a motion for approval?
yeah, I'll motion to approve both cases on the consent calendar, consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, on miscellaneous agenda, this is case 25-5010. This is the approval of the order, and so do I have a motion for approval of the order?
Okay, I'll motion to approve the order.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So next up is new business. And so we have case 25-5020, Thomas Simek and Christina Maesta Simek, conditional use permit. And so I guess if the applicants are here, if you can please come forward and present.
Is that no, the staff?
Oh, staff, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My apologies.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Good. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commission members. Thomas Simek, applicant, is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow the use of a retreat. The site is zoned traditional community. Appendix B use matrix illustrates that a retreat is a conditional use permit within the traditional community zoning district. The 3.45 acre parcel is located at 7687 Old Santa Fe Trail within Section 22, Township 16 North, Range 10 East, Commission District 4. The applicant and his wife, Christina Simic, is requesting the use of a retreat for memorial celebrations of life, weddings, and transitional ceremonies celebrating the well-being following chronic illnesses, etc. This existing site consists of an existing residence, existing accessory dwelling unit, accessory structures, and outdoor kitchen. The subject property is located at 7687 Old Santa Fe Trail within the vicinity of Canada de los Alamos and consists of 3.45 acres. The property is also within the traditional community zoning district of Santa Fe County. The applicant states, "It is our hope to explore the possibilities of utilizing our land as an outdoor small event gathering space for memorial celebrations of life, wedding ceremonies, transitional ceremonies, and ceremonies celebrating well-being following chronic illnesses. Gatherings are 20 or less. We will limit these gatherings to 50 attendees. It will be alcohol-free, and hours will be from 8 to about 10 p.m. Applicant states, "I was born and raised in New Mexico and proud native New Mexican, specializes in end-of-life ministry work, ministering to the dying and their families. The offerings take place during the death and dying process, as well as supporting families and communities following the death of a loved one, assisting families in celebrating life's greatest joys and deepest griefs through support and ceremony. For many years, Christina's work has taken place in various locations, such as private homes, funeral homes, event spaces, with the majority of my ceremonies in outdoor settings." Building and Development Services staff has reviewed this project for compliance with pertinent SLDC requirements and has found that the facts presented support the request for a conditional use permit to utilize their land for the retreats. The use is compatible with the current development within the affected zoning district. The use will not impact adjacent land, and the application satisfies the submittal requirements set forth in the SLDC, inclusive of the conditional use criteria set forth in Chapter 4, Section 4.9.6.5. Hearing officer heard this case on May 8th, 2025. At the hearing, 15 people spoke of the case and 2 people spoke against the case. The objections to the case are related to the noise traffic, change of landscape and the use of the land and water affecting neighboring residences. The review comment have not been received by the State Historic Preservation Office, and county staff have established findings that this application to utilize their land for retreats. SLDC Chapter 8, Appendix B, and required design standards set forth in the SLDC. Staff recommends approval of a conditional use permit to allow and utilize their land for retreat subject to the following conditions. If the Planning Commission grants approval, this conditional use permit, staff recommends the following conditions. Number 1, the conditional use permit showing the site layout and any other conditions that may impose through the approval process shall be recorded at the expense of the applicants in the office of the county clerks in acceptance with Chapter 4, Section 4.9.6.8. Number 2, applicant is to provide a detailed lighting plan prior to the recordation of the CUP, or the conditional use permit. Number 3, the applicant shall obtain a Santa Fe County business license. Number 4, the applicant has to comply with all staff and review agencies' comments and conditions. Number 5, the access to the site shall meet standards of Chapter 7.11 of the SLDC. The applicant shall submit a detailed lighting plan which meets the requirement of Chapter 7.8 lighting of the SLDC. Capacity should not exceed a maximum of 20 people per event. The applicant shall submit a site threshold analysis. Number 9, no off-site street parking will be allowed Overflow parking must be provided at owner's adjacent lot. We had fire comments this afternoon, so we added an extra, staff has added an extra condition to the conditions, which says the applicant shall obtain a Santa Fe County special use permit for each event proposed on the property. Each permit shall be approved prior to the occurrence of the event, and all events shall comply with applicable county regulations, the conditions of the special use permit, and the conditions of the conditional use permit approval. Members of the commission, may I enter these conditions into the record?
You sure may.
This report has the exhibits listed below and are hereby submitted as part of the hearing record. Mr. Chair, Commission members, at this time I stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rees, for presenting that. Commissioners,
So in a couple of places I'm a little confused as to how many people. Gatherings are 20 or less. Does that mean 20 or less per year? And then gatherings will be limited to 50. Later on, it says that it'll be limited to 20. So how many per year and how many attendees is this limited to?
Commissioner Member Pierhart, it is 20 people per attendance, 20 or less.
Okay, because it says 50. We'll limit these gatherings to 50 attendees. So maybe the 20 was later. So then, but we don't know how many events per year.
Vice Chair Trujillo, Commissioner Picard. So based on the recommendation from the hearing officer, it was staff's recommendation to add that condition in there. So there'll be just a maximum of 20. The 20 to 50 range was from the applicant's initial proposal, but the condition is going to be a requirement that we put into that. The applicant is here and would know more about how many events roughly they would be able to hold a year.
do you have any other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Bruger.
Thank you, Chair Trujillo. Well, David, so just looking at the report, there was March 18th, 2025, there was a letter from State Engineer's Office that expressed concerns that water use from the proposed project would exceed 0.25 acre feet that was allowable. And then on February 19th, there's a memo from the Environment Department that stated upon initial review, we can't recommend approval, and he cited concerns for Airbnb and the load from the event. But both entities, they changed their position and then approved the project. My question to you is, what changed? Why did they reverse?
Commissioner Bruger, members of the commission. Since then, they said they're not going to use the ADU as an Airbnb anymore, and they will provide porta potties for the events. That's with the NMED notes. And with Office of the State Engineers, they changed the use of the well from residential to commercial.
And I presume that the load, the number of attendees, guests from event, that was a factor too. I guess where, I was confused as well, that there'd be up to 50 attendees, but then now no more than 20. So that may have been part of the change.
Commissioner Berger, yes, that's correct. Their proposal was no more than 20, but up to 50. And our condition is no more than 20.
Okay, and so just following up on that point, your condition reads that should not be more than 20 guests. Is that a hope it's not more than 20 guests? Or is that will not be more than 20
Commissioner Bruger,
guests?
that would be a max capacity.
So that's a
occupancy.
will.
Yes.
Okay. Last question on this issue. How do you enforce that? Will the, how do you enforce that they have, how do you enforce that they have 20 versus 40? How do you enforce that there are porta potties? How do you enforce any of it? And if there is a problem that arises, then once approval is granted, there's nothing that you can do, or what happens if a condition that is agreed to is not met?
Vice Chair Trujillo, Planning Commission members, so the applicant will be bound by these conditions. These conditions will be placed on the CUP site development plan, which then gets filed and recorded in the clerk's office. They're going to be bound by these conditions. If it is ever reported that any more than 20 people are attending these events, code enforcement will be notified, and they will go out and issue violations that they are in violation of their approval. And so there are mitigation measures that staff will take, if there are any conditions that are broken.
Thank you. I have other questions, but I'll wait.
Are there other questions for staff, or you want to wait to the presentation?
For
Okay,
staff.
well, Commissioner Pava.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. Appreciate that. My question, when I look at this, is does staff have knowledge of similar kinds of conditional use permits in this zone, in the vicinity, say, in the notification area, or slightly larger area than that, similar kind of a conditional use for a retreat? Can you give us any kind of an idea? There was reference, I think, in some of the documentation to a request for a conditional use permit being denied. I think it was in the opposition's submittals. Can you elaborate at all?
Vice Chair Trujillo, Commission members, I have not done any research on the existence of other CUPs in the area. The staff would have to do a research on that.
Mr. Chair, Planning Commission member Pava, could you repeat the question?
What similar uses which require a conditional use permit, such as this retreat, which is conditional in the traditional communities zone, in the vicinity being, say, a half a mile or so, does staff have knowledge of being approved? I don't know, in the last few years? I'll leave that vague.
Vice Chair Trujillo, Planning Commission member Pava. So, to my recollection, there has been no current conditional use permits issued. That'd be something that we would have to research a little bit further. But in my recollection, there has been nothing approved or even proposed within the last few years in this area.
Well, thank you. When I read through the 18 pages of Appendix B, on the back of our zoning ordinance, it appears that there are literally dozens of conditional use possibilities in this zone, because this is a zone that's traditional and cultural, and it varies from place to place in the county, obviously. So I think I would say that staff has looked at the context and intensity of this particular proposal, and it would seem to be appropriate based on what the report documents, as does the zoning hearing examiner's findings. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Commissioners, Mr. Bruger, any? Go ahead.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Bruger.
Thank you, Chair
Commissioner Bruger.
Trujillo. I didn't want to foreclose any questions.
Everybody will have their turn.
So traffic is a concern, the neighbors. This proposal, question is, why wasn't a traffic impact analysis required?
Vice Chair, Commissioner Bruger. So the traffic impact analysis was a condition based off of concerns from neighboring properties. That was requested by the applicant. They had contacted the Santa Fe County Roads Division, and they provided a statement that no TIA was necessary.
Thank you. With the proposed project, noise may be a concern, and I noted that the applicant did a noise assessment based on some music, and that it was under the 55 decibels. That was one limit per code. I think the other limit is no more than 5 decibels over the ambient noise level, which I presume is low in the neighborhood. The question is, did you get a chance to take a look at the noise study, or what? I would presume that different events would require different music, and it'd be part of your presentation, but music would vary, noise would vary. Were you able to look at the noise study that was done?
Vice Chair Trujillo, Commission members, Commissioner Bruger, I have not been able to take a look at that study yet.
Commissioner Bruger, maybe that'll be, after we hear the presentation, maybe it'll be a question for, it's probably hard for them to.
And I will save some other questions. Thank you,
Okay.
Chair.
Commissioners, any other commissioners?
What does it mean when he has a shared well agreement with himself?
Vice Chair Trujillo, Commission members, I believe they share the well with the adjacent property, which they own as well. I
It's a well that supplies two different properties.
Correct.
Vice Chair, Commission members, I believe that's correct.
Commissioners, any other questions for staff? Okay.
I do have just one, sorry. I was looking at the development report response to the CUP criteria, and just had a question concerning parking and loading requirements and road and design standards, because I noticed here that, there's indication here that there's going to be 20 parking sites designated, one handicap parking as well and stuff, and some requirements as far as 4-inch base course and so on and so forth. But I don't recall seeing that as far as any of the conditions noted in here, so I was just curious, is that something that is going to be required to make sure that they essentially meet some of these design standards that are?
Yes, Vice Chair Trujillo, Commission Member La Cruz Crawford. So Santa Fe County Fire, with the additional condition of the special use permits that will be required for every event, Santa Fe County Fire will go and do inspections. During those inspections, if they see that there's any issues with road or access or anything, they'll bring that to the attention of the applicant at that time. If they're required to do any upgrades at that time, they will be required to submit a development permit for approval.
Gotcha, thank you. And that actually was something I didn't quite understand. I think staff mentioned something at the end there, that there would be some sort of, correct me here if I'm wrong, some sort of application that every time they have an event, they would need to submit something to the county, identifying that an event will occur. Is that correct?
Yes, Vice Chair Trujillo, Planning Commission Member La Cruz Crawford, sorry about that. So yes, in conversation with Fire Marshal Blay this afternoon, they expressed their concern that these events could happen, since they are providing canopies, that these events could happen and they would have no knowledge of these, structures being erected and inspected. So they wanted to ensure that we require a special use permit application be applied for at every time if there's an occurrence for an event prior to the event, so that they have the ability to go out and inspect these structures as well as any other conditions of the property for these events.
That's a good call. And I notice in the site plan, it at least shows 2 canopies on here and stuff. Is there any sort of limitation as far as the amount of canopies or non-permanent structures that they can put up during these events?
So as far as the temporary structures, if they're specifically just for this event, what they've identified on their site development plan for the conditional use permit, they'll be bound to that. If they want to add any additional canopies or tents, they will need to, that could be actually a minor amendment if it's 5% or less of intensity. So we could do that through a minor amendment through the land use administrator. Anything more than 5% would require a conditional use permit to come back through the process.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, I think we can move on to the applicants now. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Mr. Reese.
Vice Chair Trujillo, Commission members, I do want to mention that after the exhibits were posted on Friday, we did receive more comments in opposition and support, and so I'm going to hand out those packets now.
Okay, great. So can I get the applicants to come forward, whoever's going to present? And I think they're going to need to have you sworn in here, so.
Christina Maestas Simic, 7687 Old Santa Fe Trail.
Okay, well, thank you for coming this evening. Just make sure when you speak up that you're into the mic so that we can hear you. This room doesn't have the best
Okay.
acoustics here. But please go ahead and start.
Okay. First off, I just wanted to make note for myself. The artwork here is deeply meaningful to me. I've been in this process several times now, and it basically is telling my story, and I'm going to elaborate on it a bit. I'm from artists and storytellers and healers, and so it hasn't escaped me that this beautiful mural is here. Hello, everybody. My name is Christina Maestas Simic. I am native New Mexican from the Maestases, Montaños, Delgados, and Romeros, who were founding members of Ranchos Taos, Las Vegas, and Santa Fe. My background is indigenous, Hispanic, and European. My indigenous ancestral roots predate the founding of New Mexico. As a child, my happiest memories were under a piñon tree, sitting and picking piñon, or being out in Tres Ritos by the river with my grandparents. Being outside in nature with people I trusted is where I felt most myself, safest and at home. As an adult, I trained to become a professional death doula. I supported others through the process of death and dying. Over the years, I saw how much people feared death and needed support of trusted friends, family, and caregivers. During my work as a doula, I had countless chances to observe that death is a shared family and community experience. I then started to create small gatherings of those caring for loved ones through the process of death and dying, especially to support one another. I saw in these gatherings how healing it was for each person involved. These shared experiences in nature brought calm to the caregivers, and in particular to those that were in the death and dying experience. When I was growing up in New Mexico, it was common to share our lives, belonging, cooking, and skills with each other. Over time, relationships of trust were formed, and they happened naturally. In my personal history and ancestral lineage, there were other individuals known as curanderas who were chosen to assist and support others in the community through life transitions. They did this with the use of nature's remedies, learned wisdom, and crafting ceremonies. The role was also in my personal ancestry. Many years back, I was also trained as a professional celebrant who crafts and officiates ceremonies for life events. These ceremonies focus on individuals' personal stories, beliefs, and values. As a result, they offer deeper emotional connection and healing. Weddings are significant times for communal celebrations. Again, I observed that the quality and the depth of these special moments were amplified, especially out in nature. Beyond my ancestral background and training, science has also affirmed that, like all living things, we are made up of the same elements of the earth and all matter. In our present fast-paced technology world, we have become accustomed to relating rapidly. While there is great value in technologies, the pacing has disconnected us from our human nature and our own natural rhythms. Honoring a death has become honoring for an hour-long ceremony, 3 days to mourn, and then we just simply move on. The consequences of not making time for grief is that we often bury parts of ourselves and become less vital and disconnected from others and from our own nature and perhaps even our own neighbors. If we cannot feel sadness, we also are less open for the capacity to feel joy. My own lived experience has shown me the great value of intimate gatherings out in nature. This is where we can be vulnerable and express ourselves and our emotions. They are vital to our well-being. My intention to do this work on our property involves my heartfelt desire to share the gift of having this on this land. This land is where I feel most at home, where we have raised our children, where I share stories with my grandchildren of ancestral wisdom, playing with them. As a grandparent and an elder, it is my responsibility to model for them the importance of connecting with others, honoring our natural environment, and sharing the gifts of knowledge while bringing comfort and healing to others. For anyone who knows me and my life partner, Tom, and our family, we are committed and respectful members of our beloved Cañada de los Alamos. We care deeply about the well-being of our community and our neighbors. We also want to contribute in a meaningful way to the well-being of our world. To the best of our understanding, we are fully in line with the appropriate codes and regulations within our rights to create a small event space. In times like these, when we are living with stress, conflict, cruelty, and loss on every level, we need ceremonies for grief and for celebrating now more than ever. My greatest hope in this fast-changing world is that what I hand over to my grandchildren someday will express my deepest honoring of life and the earth and what I am a part of and is a part of me. My request is simple. I am requesting to do the work I was born to do on a land that I was born to do it upon. I am at the end point of the famed Old Santa Fe Trail, or the City of Holy Faith, where it meets the end of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, and that's the Blood of Christ Mountains. I literally live on sacred earth. I am asking for the same thing that is already approved of on larger scales on both sides of me with Bishop Camp Stoney and the Amma Ashram. Why I am doing this is because I have been privileged to sit with and learn from countless teachers of death and dying as they were going through their own deaths. The most important lesson that was shared with me is that we only have this moment. This issue can be dragged on forever over traffic, potential fires, or wrong postings. The reality is that our people and our planet are suffering. The grief is already in our neighborhood, and all we have to do is notice some of the homeless that have made their way into our beloved Cañada and to drive into Santa Fe. Whether or not we would like to admit it, we see grief all around us in the faces of our displaced and our grief-stricken community. Considering we only have this moment, what if I have been called upon to do this work in this moment to shepherd people through their most difficult moments when they are in their deepest of grief, the type of grief where you have lost your own ability to feel home? What if I am called upon to share my home out in nature for the purpose of supporting one heart at a time, while at the same time sensing the importance of nature in our lives? What if, beyond all of these delays and technicalities, that what you are being asked today is to support something that is very, very important to us all? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maestas Simek.
So
Please.
I handled the technical stuff.
Okay,
So-
we're waiting.
One thing we've been at this, we started this project back in May of 2024. So we've been at it for 15 months, trying to get things together.
Make sure and speak into the mic so we can
Oh,
all hear you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
We've been at it for 15 months. So I met with fire at the property to make sure I had a good turnaround for emergency vehicles and parking didn't interfere with it. The county requested that I have 20 parking spaces, which I do. It's indicated on the site plan in Exhibit B. And fire came up and said that I had plenty of room for emergency vehicles. With 20 attendees, I can't see us hitting 20 vehicles, but nonetheless, they wanted me to have parking just in case, one person per vehicle. I was brought up water and also liquid waste. For 20 people, we use the existing bathrooms in the house, and that was shared with everyone. If we were going to do over 50, if we were going to have over 20, then we were going to bring in porta potties. We have no need. I worked with environmental department on how many guests we would have. With 20 guests, in Exhibit A, under water and wastewater, I have the water use calculated. The septic system that I put in back in the end of 2006 and 2007 is design flow of 525 gallons per day. So it's enough to handle 20 guests. And if you can see the water use, I have it broke down that will easily stay annually under a quarter acre foot. I met with the state engineer department, and I went ahead and installed a water meter and sent them the picture of it and the serial number. And every 3 months, I send them, I go online and I record the reading. There was the traffic. If you look at, we don't know how many events are going to happen. we don't want any more than 4 a month. And since it's outdoor events, it'll only happen in nice weather, which was probably from the middle of May to possibly the middle of October, maybe. So you're looking at maybe 5 months, 6 months at the max. So if we average, say for instance, we had every weekend we had an event. It's a lot of work, so we wouldn't, it's not going to happen, but, and we average, say, 10 vehicles per event. From Public Works, I got a traffic count made 2 years ago about a half a mile west of our property. It averages 1,020 per day. 10 vehicles, what, less than 1%? And if it's averaged over a month, you're looking at 0.13%. So traffic isn't going to be an issue. If there's anything else you would like to ask me, if you have questions about, go ahead, and I think I can find something in here that I wrote down.
Sure, it's your turn to present, and then the commission will have questions for both of you. after
Okay.
this.
Okay.
So just conclude, whenever you're done, just let us know.
Okay. I think I have it, and as far as mentioned about lighting for the parking spaces, I have that indicated on the site plan, Exhibit B also.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Commission, do anybody here have questions for Mr. and Mrs. Simek? Mr. Pava.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. My only question is, there's reference to a guest rental on your property. Is there currently a guest rental on the property that you use for in the nature of an Airbnb or some such thing?
No, we don't. We initially had that on the application, but we went ahead and took it off. It would have been an issue with fire. I would have had to put a sprinkler system in there, and so we just took all that out. So it's not a guest rental. It is for family if they come and visit, but no, it's not an Airbnb.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that there is no guest rental for profit on the property. There may be accommodations for family and visitors like that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. This is interesting. So you're saying the amount of events you would have would be less than 4 per month?
Probably so. Reason being that any ceremonies that I do, I spend a lot of time with my families, and I don't have the energy to do more than that. So what it's about is being of service, not to have mass amounts of events happening. To be perfectly honest, I don't have the time, and I wouldn't be able to be as attentive as I am.
And when you have an event, how many workers are involved, like crew or caterers or?
So far, we haven't had any events there. We've had family events. So what you're talking about so far has been family and friends. A lot of times, it also involves family members. The events that I do elsewhere, I try to get family involved as much as I possibly can, especially where grief is concerned, because it gives them an opportunity to do something and feel like they're all participating.
Okay.
So I can't really answer that for there.
Okay. So you haven't had events at the property other than family?
We've had family gatherings, yes, and we have had events for family. I've had a memorial for my mom's dear friend whose husband died in an untimely way. I've had family events there, yes, I have.
Okay.
And our daughter's wedding was many years ago. And that's another part that I'm going to be very confused about is now with this happening, it's going to make it difficult for us to have family events feeling like we're doing something incorrectly. And the reason we're going through this is we wanted to make sure that everything was legal. I would expect that we could have done it another way, but what we're trying to do is make sure that everything is in order.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And do you have live music at these events?
I have had music at our daughter's. We had music, and some of the events that I've had, there's a guitarist. I've had wooden flute. Actually, that's my preference. I like to keep things quiet, and I like to utilize the silence because that's also very medicinal. So are we going to have hard rock and headbanging out there? That's not what I'm about.
Okay, and when you've had these larger family events, have you received any complaints about noise or anything from those?
Not anything other than what was in the files.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Pirard. Do we have Commissioner Bruger?
Thank you, Chair Trio. Loved your presentation. I think it's great. The questions I have are more technical or programmatic in nature, because what you're proposing is not a permitted use in traditional community zoning. Better or worse, it is not. It is not a prohibited use. It is a conditional use permit, and certain criteria have to be met in order to grant the permit, and that's why we're here. So the limit of 20 attendees seems to be, it's an important limit now. And you didn't, from what I read in the reports, you didn't start out at that point, but you got to that point. So question for you is, how will you market to prospective clients that this is a limit? And you mentioned that there be no alcohol. How will you market that so that enforcement is a concern, that people aren't put in the position of having to enforce something which was promised to never happen?
That will be when she works with her clients, she would have to let them know if they choose to have an event at our place, then Christina would have to.
And I'm realizing this is not a big money-making event. If I was doing that, I wouldn't be doing small events. And we kept, we're trying to work within what is asked and required of us, including being good neighbors. The reason it was so confusing relative to Airbnb is because that was one of the first things we proposed. I met with one of the neighbors, and what I heard was that was a huge concern. So we changed that and pulled that off. When I heard the next thing was to have bigger gatherings, we just started decreasing them because I want to be neighborly and I want to be accommodating. And small events are what I do anyway. How would I be marketing them? It's a niche, and it's not going to be for everybody any more than my weddings. I interview extensively, and I'm not for everybody, and they're not for me. So it's going to be relative to small, intimate events and having that clearly expressed. The element about no alcohol, no drugs, and so forth is because of a lot of people that I'm dealing with, that's exactly how their family member has been lost. And so I am not going to support that. And this is something that I want to do that's different, because there's many events that I've done where people that are going through AA or dry or sober, there isn't any place for them to go. So I realize it's not going to be for everybody, and it's small, but that's what I like doing.
So it would be fair to assume then that if this were approved, that this limitation would find its way on your website where you market the events?
That would be how it's marketed. And again, I have no idea. It may not go. I'm just feeling like it's something that may be necessary because of what I'm called upon to do when I've had to go other places as well.
If I may, why in your application you have the hours of operation would be from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Why such a wide window?
It was just basically trying to figure out what we would offer. I don't really want them that late, and I don't really want them that early. But what I'm imagining, I'm also a creative artist, and I could imagine people wanting to come in early and do decorating or whatever it is, and allowing them to have the time and space to do that. The other thing that's greatly important when I'm working with families, especially families in grief, I want to give them time and space for relating to one another. So I was giving this broad range, which we may or may not use.
Last question, if I may. So if you have night events after dark, I guess you would, correct, if I understand you correctly?
Possibly. Now, if the events that I've helped Christina with last as little as 2 hours.
And often we're having there's a spiritual reason I do this. We're having them at sunset. So sometimes we are having an event there. There'll be a social gathering after, and then everybody goes home. So, I can't plan for every possible thing, but I was just thinking of a broad range to be able to offer.
So if you have events at night, you will have to light them. And I guess the how you light them would be part of the lighting plan that you will come up with, but if haven't seen a lighting plan, so if you could shed some light on how you illuminate your event but not disturb the neighborhood.
You came and visited our place, you would see. If you came to our place, you would see we live on, our total acreage is 5 acres. And it's really hard to see a lighting. We've got big ponderosa, big pinon all around us. So, yeah, I can't see us disturbing anybody with lighting. And as far as noise, I think when we have our grandkids over, they make more noise than what we would be making. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Bruger. Any other commissioners' questions for the applicants?
Yeah, I appreciate
Commissioner La Cruz Crawford.
Thank you. I appreciate both of your presentations and, the work that you're doing, and also the fact that it seems like you've been diligent in trying to make sure that you're meeting all the requirements, et cetera, so I appreciate that as well. And I'll go back to the 20. My question, I guess, for you is really as far as that 20, because it seems, obviously you had wanted to have larger gatherings, or at least the possibility to have larger gatherings, right? And now you're trying to, kind of bringing it down to 20 to get smaller gatherings or whatnot. Is that really, I guess, is there any concern on your end with respect to that? Because I'm also thinking it's like, and this is maybe more of a staff question, but it's like, is that 20 strictly guests, or like the other commissioner mentioned here, as far as like if you're going to have staff, et cetera, what is that, right? It's like, is that strictly 20 guests and not staff and yourself included in that? Because I can see, like, if you're having a retreat, et cetera, and stuff, it's like keeping it small, more intimate, like you want to do, great. But then there might be the occasional time where you might want to have a larger gathering for whatever reason, family reason or whatever is happening, So I guess my question to you is just, is that really limiting to you guys as far as that 20 guess, requirement that they're putting in or that staff is recommending?
To be perfectly honest, it's very limiting, but I'm going to do what I can to work within that because it matters. A lot of the gatherings that I do, some of the weddings that I do, I have couples coming in and they want to have an intimate wedding. They're older couples and they've gone through a lot to find one another. And they show up, just the two of them with witnesses. So we're not talking about pushing every event to 20. It may just be 4 to 6 people. I don't know.
And I guess my other question would be, what kind of relations do you have with your neighbors, immediate neighbors, et cetera? Is that a fairly good relationship you currently have? Because obviously, like you said, you have your own family gatherings. I know I have gatherings in my house, and they far exceed 20 people. So it's
We
like,
do. We didn't have any difficulties with the neighbors before our request. None. So, I get that we all have our own opinions and our own decisions, and I value that. That's the work that I do. I'm just not having Ruck Rouse's events. That's not what I do, and that's not how I do things. So, no, we were not. We were not perpetually having people called to come and attend to all of our noisiness. That never happened. And we never heard from our neighbors for anything otherwise. So I'm just answering your question.
thank you, I appreciate it. I think the only other question I have is kind of similar to that. Is like anything else in the staff recommendations that you personally are concerned about, I guess, as far as how that limits your use of your property?
Yes, one of the things I was hearing was, I think that I heard, because there was a lot of words, shared, about having to get a permit every time we have an event. Is that correct?
Go ahead.
Vice
Staff,
Trujillo,
please.
Commission members, yes, that is correct. A concern came from the Santa Fe County Fire Department earlier this afternoon that they wouldn't be able to inspect these structures that are erected during every time that there's an event. And so they wanted to ensure that they are able to inspect these structures, with a good amount of time. And so therefore we are requiring that a special use permit would be submitted every time that there is an event.
When we have the structures up, is that correct? Because that's what you shared with me initially, was if we were putting up the canopy structures, then we would need to bring fire out. Is that correct?
Yes, that'll be correct.
Okay.
So
Because-
let me interrupt here. So just so I understand here, if they put up a canopy, so what is the definition of a canopy that would require fire approval?
So the canopy is a temporary structure, but there are, fire code requirements that they need to inspect these structures to make sure that they're, erected correctly, that they're properly, standing and secure, and that there's no, cause for any type of injury or anything to go forward. And so for a special use permit, typically fire does these inspections, even for, let's say, if there's a stage erected for a concert, they'll want to inspect that stage and make sure that there are no issues with that stage to ensure that there's no injuries.
So if I understand you correct, the canopy wouldn't be for parking, it would be for holding people underneath it for some event. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I'll let the applicant speak after this.
Yes, and we would only do the canopy if it's requested by the people that are having the event. And
The other thing that when we were first trying to get everything together, I was also guided to give information about the canopies that we'd be getting, where we'd be getting them from. And so I went down to Santa Fe Party Rentals. I talked to them about it. I talked to them about being legal. And so my understanding was, in submitting all of that, as long as we kept going through that particular place that has these type of canopies, that we were fine. So this is something that, was a surprise. So, but I guess like Tom said, we may not have anybody requesting a canopy, but I guess we'd have to go through that if that's what's being required.
So status question for staff. So if if somebody doesn't have a request to erect a canopy or a tent, so to speak, then there wouldn't be required under the way the fire department is currently stated this condition on this permit if approved.
Vice Chair, that is correct, but one of the concerns that was brought to me by Fire Marshal Blay was that what happens in the event of inclement weather? And there's what happens then? Are these people then going to be rushed into the home? And so his concern is if that's the case, then this use is totally different. Then the structure, the residence would need to be sprinkled and considered as a commercial structure. So the way he kind of interpreted it was that if there is an event, more than likely those tents are going to be up because if something happens, if there's rainfall, which could happen within 15 to 20 minutes, as you know, as a resident of Santa Fe, anytime, that where do these people go for shelter? And so he's looking at as that structure will more than likely be erected for every event in case that happens.
So one more other question before I let you continue for staff. Thank you, Mr. Cisneros. I guess my question would be is if a family is hosting a birthday party and they call Santa Fe Party Center to erect a tent to have for a kid's birthday party, are those people obligated under current code to go get a permit with the county to erect that tent for the birthday party?
Vice Chair, no, that would not be considered a commercial use.
Okay, thank you.
I just want a clarification. So every time they have an event, they are going to have to come and get a permit based on the conditional use permit if this goes through.
So, Commissioner, if there's these conditions put on this permit, I mean, we as a commission can decide whether they need to be on there or not if it's approved, or whether this even gets approved. But these are just what the recommendations are.
Okay, thanks.
Just to follow up with that,
Sure.
because
Cruz Crawford.
thank you. Yeah, so
I have to say that name,
Hey, following up with that, a company that actually provides tent structures, et cetera, right? That was going to be my question as well. Is are they the ones that would be responsible to pulling the special use permit? And I know you mentioned it's different because it's only in a commercial application, but how does a company like that know whether or not they should do it, or is it the applicant that is responsible for ensuring that a special use permit is actually pulled? Correct.
It would be up to the property owner and the applicant.
Okay.
Have any other questions from any other commissioners? I have just a couple of questions. One of them, the first one that actually is for staff, is in this process of having to go get a permit each time that they're going to use this venue. What is the turnaround time at the county for this? Is this a day thing that you walk in and you walk out the same day, or do you got to send out inspectors, or how does this actually work?
So typically a special use permit is routed to Santa Fe County Fire Department. We also route it to the sheriff's office as well. For this specific use and event, Santa Fe County Fire is the department and division that is expressing their concern and want to make sure that they're involved with their inspections. It may not be required to get any kind of notice initially to the sheriff's office, for 20 people maximum capacity. We may not need to send that to the sheriff's office, but we would confer with them to see if it's something that they would want to see. So we're looking about a week, just so we can get responses back.
Okay, I guess the running this through my head, and the issue that I have is that you plan for an event and there is deadlines, and you make commitments, and if the permit doesn't come through, it creates huge problems, especially if it would be the applicants here. So I've just, so you're saying it's basically takes about a week's time, and how accurate is that? Is that something, I know I can't really hold you to that, but over your experience, is it pretty accurate in time?
Vice Chair, Commission members, it's pretty accurate. The only time it's really held up if there are any issues, regarding fire or regarding anything with the sheriff's office or security. Typically, someone who's applying for a special use permit, they'll apply, a month in advance, maybe even more than that, to give us enough time to get a review done and issue them their special use permit. So with the enough notice, if we're given enough notice, we can turn those around fairly quickly, and there's typically no issue with any holdup of any type of event.
And so if there can two different events be placed on the same thing? If there's one for a Friday and a Saturday, or does it have to be filed individually?
No, if they're doing like a 3-day event or a multi-day event, they could include that on one permit.
Okay. Thank you. So thank you very much for your presentation. If we have any other questions, we may bring you back. So now we're going to move this to a public hearing, and I see quite a few people out there, and so I want to find out by a show of hands how many people are here to speak in favor of this conditional use permit. Okay, and now I want to see how many people are here to speak opposed to it. Okay. And so I did this a lot in one of the past jobs I had, and so I know a lot of times this can get a little bit, people have the same concerns, and so I'm going to ask that people come up, and if you express the same concern, it's very short and succinct. If not, I'm going to start to put like a 2-minute timer on people so that we don't hear the same argument for 10 minutes each person, because we could be here all the way to midnight tonight. And so I guess we'll start with maybe people in opposition first, and I'm going to keep a look on time here, and if you can state what you need to state in 3 minutes or so, unless it's really compelling, then we'll move on to the next person. So I guess maybe form a line, or the first person that raised their hand that's in opposition, please come and speak, and you'll have to be sworn in. What? Let's do that. That's better. Everybody please stand. Hold. Thank you. Please, go ahead and state your name.
Okay. Thank you guys very much for letting me speak. My name is Martin Smith, and my wife is with me, Donna Smith. I reside at 7689A Old Santa Fe Trail. Our 88.75 acres property is the immediate driveway east of the subject's property. My Santa Fe roots go way back to 1856. My great-great-grandfather, Benjamin Schuster, and his sister, Julia Schuster Staub, families of the La Posada fame. My mother was Michaela Ortiz Smith, the daughter of Onefro and Guadalupe Ortiz of Chavez Place of Santa Fe. So, my mother served in the Cathedral Basilica of St. Francis of Assisi in the Altar Society for 55 years. My father was Frank B. Smith. He served as Director of Transportation for the State of New Mexico, Corporation Commission for the State of New Mexico. Seeking more quiet, my father moved our family from the 1978 from our in-town home on Don Cubero to the current Santa Fe Trail rail residence. Right out of Santa Fe High School, I was drafted and served my country in Vietnam. I became disabled and suffered from PTSD and am very sensitive to noise.
Vice Chair, we have a minute left.
Thank you. Please continue.
Okay. Don and I added our names to the initial position from 25 members who opposed the CUP proposal under consideration. We wanted the hearing officer to know that the resulting immediate noise just next to our home from traffic and celebrations involving as many as 20 people each week will be a serious threat to my mental health. I have Agent Orange and hepatitis C from my service in Vietnam. And it would have killed me had I received a liver transplant 36 years ago. I'm 76, but my liver is 52.
Vice Chair, the time is up.
Okay. I'll give you 10 more seconds, sir, to finish up here.
All right. It's important to my long physical recovery and bicycling overall. The years I built by the strength of the by cycling of more than 30 miles came to an abrupt pause when a car driving too fast in our area of Old Santa Fe Trail forced me off the road. My knee suffered a torn meniscus that required surgery and extensive rehabilitation. That was a few months ago, and as why Don and I were not able to hear in person at the main meeting.
I'm going to have to, the time has expired, but what I do want to say is I thank you for coming, and I'd want to say thank you for the service that you did for all of us.
I'd like to ask a question to the CIMICs. How large is their septic tank?
So this was, they will have to go, you know, this isn't the time to ask them a question. In this process, they have to go to the environmental department, and they have the records of the size and all the...
And when it's pumped, because I smell their septic system from my house, okay?
Okay.
And just to know, our peaceful community is going to be our peaceful and quiet community that is not appropriate location for a commercial event like this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Who's next? We got 3 minutes, okay?
Name is
Please state
Florian
your
Prada. I have resided in.
Sir, go ahead and please state your name and your address.
Florian Prada, number 23, Herencia de Prada. Pardon me? Yes. I have resided my whole life in Cañada de los Álamos at number 23, Herencia de Prada. My father's families, the Prada and Martinez, have lived in Cañada de los Álamos for many generations. My mother, Josephine Jimenez, from Rio en Medio, has resided in Cañada de los Álamos since the early 1970s. I have worked in the construction, renovation, and maintenance of homes since 1989, fresh from high school. I went to work for Dave Birnbaum's company, Santa Fe Trail Builders. One of the early places that I worked with one of his local crews was at Steve's Steve Fald's residence. I have worked regularly with Steve Fald in the 35 years since. In March of this year, I asked Steve if he knew what was going on with the yellow placard at the Simic residence. He explained that it announced an application for conditional use permit and said that the request was to allow Christina Simic's wedding, funeral, life celebrations business to hold events of up to 50 people at the home residence. My immediate reaction was to tell Steve that will be really hard on my close friend Martin Smith, who lives just next door. I explained that more noise and traffic so close to him would be harmful to Martin's health because of his Vietnam War PTSD disability. And I mentioned how upsetting it was to Martin when his driveway was blocked for a long period by cars during a Simic event. So out of concern for Martin's health, my mother and I signed the original letter of concern from 25 neighbors to the county, the one that Steve presented here in May before the hearing officer.
Chair, there's less than a minute left.
In addition to my concern for Martin, I have two other things to say. The first is about the increase in numbers of people now coming out to Cañada de los Álamos for access to forest hiking, bike trails, and camping through the businesses of Fat Tire and Treehouse Camp. More and more, I experienced outsiders treating our community carelessly, leaving their junk, making their noise, speeding around our roads, disturbing our peace. We have had multiple visits from Hondo Fire Department this summer because of dangerous behavior. It makes me feel that increasing the number of people who don't know our roads and are not part of our community will surely lead to greater fire danger. The second thing here is about our road conditions. I drive Cañada Village
You got
Road.
just about 10 more seconds, sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but,
Just the concern, of all the people coming in.
I do get it, but if 50 people speak and everybody speaks for 20
Yeah,
minutes, we'll
I'll
be here
just say
till
my
midnight.
last part. Thank you for listening.
Thank you,
Have a
sir.
good day.
Appreciate it.
My name is David Birnbaum, and I live at 7727 Old Santa Fe Trail, and I'm under oath. Good afternoon, and thank you, commissioners and all. I've lived on a hillside less than a half mile from the Cimex for 46 years. I hope the information that is provided by the majority of the neighbors who overwhelmingly oppose this application will be enough to convince the commissioners today to vote to deny the CUP. But if they don't, I would ask them to please postpone their decision until the applicants provide the traffic impact analysis, which is clearly required in the Sustainable Land Development Code. The most important reason not to omit a traffic impact analysis is that the old Santa Fe Trail at that location is a dangerous bottleneck in an overloaded evacuation route, which is the only way out for at least 500 people in case of a wildfire evacuation. The 2020 census counted 421 residents just within the area recently recognized by the county as a traditional community, and I'm sure there are at least 80 additional people who would evacuate on this route. That's where I get my 500 number. However, I have been unable to find anyone who can confirm the number of evacuees, but I had been told during a similar meeting at the commission regarding the AMA Center in 2015 that as many as 1,000 people live in the network of roads that all come together where Cañada Village Way connects to the old Santa Fe Trail, less than a quarter of a mile east of the Cimex driveway. I did speak with Clark Thomas of the Hondo VFD with Mr. Blay and with Brad Call, and they all three confirmed that the evacuation situation in this area is extremely dangerous. Because of the lack of an alternative access, our narrow, shoulderless road cannot be converted to a two-lane exit road because emergency vehicles will need to be entering simultaneously. Because of the increased likelihood of wildfire, we cannot afford to add any more vehicles.
30 seconds.
Okay. The traffic impact analysis is an important and necessary part of the process, and is supposed to be submitted with the application for a CUP. The only reason given by the county staff for exempting this TIA is the number of people at each event. But in fact, every additional vehicle could be intensifying the already dangerous situation and the difficulty of a quick and safe evacuation. Think of the freeways in large cities where the traffic slows to a crawl during rush hour. This application is not complete without a traffic impact analysis, which will confirm that this extraordinarily poorly designed and engineered road is not capable of handling any additional evacuation traffic. The Commission should deny the application now, or in the alternative, insist that a TIA be carried out as required by the Sustainable Land Development Code. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
My name is Stephen Feld. I reside at 7719 Old Santa Fe Trail, and I am sworn in. Thank you. I'm here among 25 residents on more than 60 surrounding acres, and we are telling you that we do not want the intrusive noise, traffic, and fire safety hazard of a commercial weddings and funerals business that could fill our road up to 48 times a year with up to 50 people between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. We're asking you to require, as is necessary, all applications, and this one, to include a traffic impact analysis. Look, just this last Sunday, lightning caused a half-acre fire on Shaggy Peak at the very north of Cañada de los Alamos. Luckily, it was fully contained and no evacuations were necessary. But this serves as a clear reminder of why we all are insisting on vigilant attention to road conditions on a fire evacuation route. I've been driving this road for 43 years, since the time when it was unpaved and nicknamed the Old Corduroy Trail because it was totally washboard all the time. But many of the same drainage issues persist, even after paving, and with each rain, our road washes out in 20 places, several of them across both lanes. The county's aware of this and responds quickly and positively to our need by sending heavy equipment to clear these 2 miles of road with substandard drainage. We had a half-inch of rain last Friday night, and the county was there for us Monday morning, and we appreciate it. All the same, on Sunday evening at about 7 p.m., a car driving too fast toward town hit a pile of rock and dirt, skidded 360 degrees onto the dirt and side of the road. I passed by on my way home and got out and talked to 3 officers. County sheriff vehicles were there attending to this. In the wake of devastating wildfires here in New Mexico that have harmed so many people, up in Mora and so forth, our insurance policies now cost about 3 times as much. Because we're surrounded by forest, we have one way in and out, we have road conditions with known issues,
30 seconds.
and we have a history of road accidents. These traffic impacts, evacuation route conditions, and fire hazards are deeply linked in our community. So please, for the safety, health, and welfare of us, we ask that you either deny this application now or at the very least insist that it include a traffic impact analysis so we really know what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Trujillo, members of the Commission. My name is Joseph Carnes, 125 Lincoln Suite 221. I represent a group of local residents standing tonight to request that you deny the application and not allow a precedent-setting commercial event venue to be established in this community. The question before you is not whether the proposed use is appropriate for whether the proposed use is appropriate for this particular location. There was talk earlier about other conditional use permits in Cañada de los Alamos. About a decade ago, I worked against the AMA Center event venue. That was a larger project that the county properly denied because of three primary reasons: the extreme fire hazard present in Cañada de los Alamos and surrounding area, the lack of a viable secondary emergency access route out of Cañada de los Alamos, and the substandard road conditions that exist on the old Santa Fe Trail. Those same reasons exist here, and regardless of the relative size of the proposed use, they should stand, and the same decision should be made to deny the application. Now, there's a letter in your packet asking for a traffic impact analysis, which is required by your code. Table 7.1 requires a traffic impact analysis. The only reason I heard tonight why it wasn't carried out was that the project was too small. The SLDC directly addresses that. The code states in section 6.6.3, the TIA shall follow NMDOT state access manual requirements, which requires a general assessment for smaller impact projects which generate little traffic, and a detailed analysis for those projects that generate larger traffic volumes. A small project is not a reason to study both the existing conditions and the conditions resulting from the project. In this case, the code for issuance of a CUP requires that this commission find that the project will not be detrimental to the health, safety, and general welfare of the area or tend to create congestion in roads. I submit to you that the existing conditions don't meet these requirements, and the proposed project will make them worse. Given the lack of traffic analysis, my clients went and hired Joe Barella, a licensed traffic engineer who's been around here for a long time. He prepared a report. Unfortunately, given the timing, we got it last Friday. I submitted it last Friday with my letter, and I think you just got it. But he submitted a stamped engineering report citing substandard conditions on Old Santa Fe Trail with respect to site distance and the steep uphill S-curves leading to the project site triangles at the several residential driveways leading up to the site, road width, steep grades, drainage infrastructure, and lack of shoulders and steep drop-offs on the south side.
30 seconds.
Old Santa Fe Trail was developed as a wagon road, a slow-paced wagon road. It was paved in the late 90s in this area. What the paving did was sped up traffic. Sped up traffic, which Mr. Barella measured, and the average speeds are substantially higher than the posted speed limits. He said since no shoulders exist in both directions, this creates a hazard for vehicular traffic considering the measured speeds. There has been a complete absence of analysis of the existing conditions on this road, which couldn't be built today. It was not designed, it was not engineered, it was built 150 or so years ago. And that is the problem here. We need analysis of the existing road. It is a problem. Mr. Barella verified that, and that should be a basis for you to require at minimum a TIA be prepared. And secondly, we request that you deny the application, just as this county denied the AMA Center application. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else to speak in opposition? Okay, then we are going to move forward for those that are in favor. I saw quite a few more other hands, so we'll still keep it at 3 minutes, but if it gets repetitive, we're going to reduce it down to 2 minutes.
I was sworn in. This is very brief. Good afternoon. My name is Christine Montano Carey. I'm here again in support of my daughter Christina's request for this conditional use permit. It wasn't until not too long ago that I fully witnessed what Christina does for so many. At times in our lives that are the most difficult, stressful, and yes, lonely very often, Christina steps in, often without any compensation at all, to hold the hands and walk the walk with those in most need of understanding and compassion. I have seen firsthand how all the training, both medically, incidentally, she's also trained as a respiratory therapist, besides all the human relations that she does. both medically and in human relations, and has made a difference in so many lives. Often total strangers that happen to know that I am her mother come up to me and can't say enough about what Christina means to them and what a giving, loving, compassionate person she is. It makes me burst at the seams that this little girl that was born to me and took on the role of caregiver at a very early age is making such an impact on so many lives. And yes, I can see what their concerns are with noise and traffic, but that's not who Christina is. First of all, she's not a noisy person. She's not a big party person. I have yet to attend one of her functions where there is anything other than maybe a guitarist, maybe a flautist, like she said, but she's not a big, loud party person. So I want the neighbors to rest assured that that should not even be a concern. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
I've been sworn in. My name is Bria Simic, and I am the daughter of Tom and Christina. I was raised in these mountains. When I was 6 years old, we moved to the end of the road, to where you could not go any further. We were alongside the forest road, and we heard every complaint that everyone has complained about. We had the same complaints and the same concerns growing up, from fires to the road to the drinking, but that was never us. We have issues in our own family. We don't even have alcohol in the house. That's not who my parents are. Music was never a thing. We don't play loud music. They don't play loud music. They don't even play music unless there's an event. But also, being raised in these mountains, I can't tell you how many events I have had back there for myself, for my own family. Surprise birthday parties, baby showers. I've had baby showers, I've had graduation parties, going away parties, birthday parties. I've had all the events. I got married here. We did everything for my wedding, and of utmost concern of my parents was making sure everything was planned according to our neighbors. When we started, when we ended, when everyone needed to be out, everything we did has always been concerned about the people around us. We've never been able to start a fire. You've never been able to light anything outside because my parents are so concerned about our surroundings and about our neighbors. And not once did we ever have a concern come to us ever about any event. And I guarantee you they were larger than the 20 that my mom wants to have. And that was because that's our family. I can come over on any given weekend and there'll be more than 20 people because I have children and I have siblings and we have grandparents. And that's all it takes for us to have 20 people at our house. So in the middle of this, my mom lost a friend and had an event at the house just to have the friends who lost a friend at the house, and someone was complaining about that. And I don't think someone should have to live in their own home and be worried about people coming to them every single time they decide to have their family over or to mourn the loss of a friend and not have it be a commercial or a business. None of that. And how are we going to know when the neighbors are going to complain and when they're not all of the sudden? They never recognized we ever had anything to do out there in the beginning until it came to us getting a permit. There was not one complaint about us. And the only thing about us over there is our neighbor who blasts his music at any given point, at any given hour of the day, so he could work outside. And no one's ever complained about that. So I hope you guys can consider, and I know any single one of you, even any neighbor who has opposed this, if they came to the property and they looked and they just saw what was there, like during the summer, we had a massive estate sale because we were trying to get rid of stuff just so we have less. And we got to meet everybody from the neighborhood. And everybody was so nice.
30
People
seconds.
were coming in and they were kind, and nobody ever complained about a single thing. So if any of you guys, before you make your decision, if that's the case, I know my parents would love to have you there. And you guys could see what's there and what you're making a decision on, because I guarantee you it's definitely not what the concerns that are being brought they're not a part of my mother's events. So I hope you guys can really take this into consideration, because it even puts a damper on how they get to live their life and enjoy themselves at their own house too. So thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Pat Vigil Rivera, and I took the oath. Thank you for listening to me. I want to just acknowledge that I have listened attentively to everything, and there, all of this that surrounds us, all the parameters, all of the regulations, all of the concerns that are valid. So, but for now, I would like to bring us more outside of this into the heart of what we're really talking about here. So I was interested when somebody mentioned the word culture. I stand on rooted culture of generations, where my grandmother was a partera, a curandera, and everything in a home was sacred. It was where ceremony happened. It wasn't where you present a credit card for big bucks to come together with your family, where somebody listens to the heart's ache or the heart's celebration in an intimate setting. There's no neon signs. There's no blasting of music. There's a celebration that honors life, that honors the passing or the coming of a new life into the world. So when we talk about culture, I stand on that culture, both in 3 languages. I stand in that culture, knowing that the land we stand on, the home that they're offering to a community, is a very sacred gift. And I just want you to think of it in terms of the heart and coming to the center of what this is all about. And yes, we have heard everything on the outside and the concerns. And to my understanding, they've addressed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Somebody next?
Hi, my name's Rebecca Bear. I live at 27 Vereda Mesita, and I am speaking truth. My heart's racing. I met Christina because a dear friend of mine shot herself in the head, and Christina was there to hold the ceremony. And I feel really grateful to be here now and to hear everyone, and what I feel is shared from the people that spoke against and for is a care for others and a care for safety of others. And I'm sad that a lot of people that, I guess everyone that spoke, or no, not everyone, has left, most people. And what I see in that is they may have an intelligence and passion in a certain way they're seeing this issue, but there's a disconnect from actually seeing Christina and her family and what she does, and actually taking in the whole picture of the value, the health, the love that they're creating on their property and with others. And I felt for the men who spoke who were in the military, and I actually participated in an event with Christina where there were people who were veterans and had a deep experience of healing in that gathering that we had. And so I would just hope that even though they have this sense of the noise would be disruptive for their health, that if this does go through, that they could actually feel the impact of the work that Christina does, of how it does create a deep sense of safety and healing that's beyond the mental ideas of what we think that we need, and it's emotional and spiritual and relational. And I have witnessed that deeply from the experiences I've had with Christina, of how it's beyond what the mind thinks that we need, but it's actually about who's in front of us and how we connect with each other and actually see each other. And the more that we are able to grieve and feel our wholeness, the more we can actually respond with health and our right instinct and right action.
Thank you.
County Commissioners, thank you. My name is James Lamar Knight. I live at 107 Placita Road in Santa Fe County, La Puebla. I've known Christina for a little less than 20 years, and I know that she's a person of the highest integrity. She is truly a gifted healer. She knows how to bring community together, which is something that we need very much in these times. We can't always depend on the federal government to take care of us. We need people to bring peace and healing at these deep spiritual levels, and also Christina's deep connection, the history of her family, the deep connection to this land here in New Mexico, land of various cultures coming together. And truly, it is people like Christina who bring this process to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there, there we go.
My name is Barbara Powell. I'm living at 57 Apache Creek Road, and I'm under oath. First of all, I'd like to say I was the next door neighbor before I moved to my new home, and there was nothing ever but absolutely beautiful gatherings that occurred. The energy that Christina and Tom have and the world that they live on in that space that they are is sacred. And there would never be something that they would do that would create any kind of problem for a neighbor, because I was the neighbor, and I need my quiet, and I need my sacred space, and I had it 100% of the time living right next door to them. So all I can say also in addition to that is that the work that Christina does has always been beyond the beyond of value. But in this moment, right now, it's more important than ever. This is my opinion, but I sense it and I feel it and I know it. She's a compassionate being. The world needs her now. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Hi, I'm Brad Childs. I live at 46 Treehouse Road, down the road from the village. And I'm here in support of the project. I think that, you heard a lot of negativity based on a lot of fear. And I just can't relate to that. I drive that road occasionally into town. I don't go every day, but where they're situated, it's not a curvy road. They're outside the village, fairly straight. I don't run into a lot of traffic. I don't think it's an issue. I'm comfortable with their project. I think it's good for the community. It makes it a wholesome, welcoming place. And I just have a lot of support for that. Again, I think a lot of the concerns are not valid. And as a local, I just want you to know that there's a lot of other folks who support this type of work that have been at other hearings. There's a lot of rain out there today. I think we would have got a lot more if the traffic and the timing was better for this hearing. But anyway, I just want you to know it's heartfelt and they do good work, and I think it deserves the blessing of this body. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm Rusty Rodkey, and I am at 169 Hayosis Road, Santa Fe. Hello,
How you doing?
Commissioner. Worked
Nice
with
to see you.
Commissioner at the legislature and Commissioner Trujillo. And thank you for the opportunity. I've known Christina for about 20 years. We've been in Toastmasters together for quite a while, as Commissioner or Chairman might remember. You guys have a difficult job balancing the competing interest. The regulations are so elaborate that it's daunting for anybody to try to attempt this effort. And appreciate you all the time that staff has put into it, and the applicants. You know, if the road is substandard, and I think it is, the county needs to fix it. The infrastructure, the ICIP, the Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan, is currently underway right now for the next round, for the next 5 years. And if Commissioner Adam Johnson isn't aware of just how desperate the community is at Cañada de los Alamos, I would hope that this body would actually inform the new commissioner about that. I looked up just Googled what the population of Cañada de los Alamos is now, and it's 680. And it was down to about 235 10 years ago. It's had a 10% growth rate. There's a lot of issues that need to be addressed. But whether or not this conditional use permit is allowed, evacuation routes, I've been informed that Apache Canyon, that there's someone there's a private landowner that has agreed to allow emergency evacuation down through their property to connect to that road, the Apache Canyon Road. If there's 3 or 4 other kind of connections like that can happen, then I think that would really make a huge difference in the comfort and safety of the entire District 4, all of the mountain areas. I think that also a Firewise program is needed urgently for all those areas because they're living in a tinderbox. Are the individual members and residents doing what they can to decrease the hazard? There needs to be a lot of thinning. And then, you know, if the road is substandard, how can it be fixed? The legislature now has more money than they know how to spend, for crying out loud. And so if the county could be real proactive in trying to address this, then it would make a huge difference.
Vice Chair, the time is up.
What's that?
He's informing that time is up. I'll give you a few more seconds here.
Okay.
But appreciate all the...
But anyway, I urge you to support this work. Christina has helped my personal family and several others to do it. Mr. Mayor, thank you for your efforts in this. He was in my Cub Scout pack.
Thank you. Do I have anybody else that's here to speak in support?
My name is Devin Green, 27 Vereda Mesita. I'm under oath. Though I used to live on Old Forest Trail out past Cañada de los Alamos. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I come here today in deep appreciation for Christina. I consider myself a client and a friend of her. And in my time knowing Christina, I would say what really characterizes her is respectfulness and consideration. I see it in everything she does, every aspect of her being and relating. And that is why it is my opinion that she is completely trustworthy as a steward of her location. And I would be happy for her to have the freedom to have gatherings without a permit every time, And I would be amazed and gladdened if she could even have more than 20 people. And I think it is very uncharacteristic to consider her as a commercial operation. She offers a deep sacredness. I see the tremendous value in the work she does, which has helped me in connection with my ancestors and who I am now. And I also see the value in her beautiful home and the beautiful nature there to contribute to everyone's process of healing. And finally, in the light of our constitutional right, our First Amendment, to gather, our freedom of religion, I would encourage that to be honored in Christina's case, to support all her clients and friends to find peace with death, to find celebration in birth and joining, and in community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else in support?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I live about, 100 yards as sound and crows fly from the proposed site. And I think most of the arguments are really not germane. The road is what it is. There's better ones and worse ones. Fire is a huge danger. We're all in fear of fire, but 10 more cars won't really make a difference. And the one concern I've seen tonight that touched with me was the gentleman with PTSD. I was also in Vietnam. I think, ironically, Agent Orange kept me alive because the area where I was had been defoliated, and casualties went way down. And so all the rules and the regulations, I think we all know you can get around those. You can get a good lawyer, you can do what you want. And I think ultimately you're relying, relying on the persons who are applying. And I think their character is high enough that they'll comply with the spirit of the law. So I would say give them a shot, let them try it out. That's all, thanks. Mike Sullivan. Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Alexandra Mertz. I live at 22 Cumbres Pass. Thank you. I met Christina probably around 2018, and I became more intimate in knowing her as a human being in 2020. In the place I was living at the time, all of my neighbors who were the elderly were afraid to go to the grocery store, afraid to work on the computer to get their applications and all of these things. And I started just helping out my neighbors a lot and telling my friends and neighbors, if you are that afraid of dying, I promise you I will come and sit with you if you get COVID. And in knowing Christina, I became inspired to learn more about facing death. So in working with Christina, I continue to learn. And in Christina's events, she is connecting not only the traditions of New Mexican curandera culture, but she is building the knowledge in younger people for the future to carry on her work. So I wanted to bring forth the impact of her events for those in all of our lives who will need to know how to interface with death. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ines Andrade Maricol, or Starbird, and I'm here today to embrace the sacredness of the work that Christina has been providing the community. If my mom would have been open to having a death doula, it was Christina I had chosen, as I heard from so many different walks of life, how she had helped people to overcome the death of their loved ones, and how the community respects her in very many different settings. And from left and right, as a ancestral worker as well, I have been really hearing about how gifted this being is. And honoring her is honoring all the work that has been done here on this land. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Vice Chair, Commissioners. My name is Felicity Brennan. I reside at 7680 Old Santa Fe Trail. I'm directly across from the applicants. And I am here in favor of you all granting this CUP. Like others, I find that an addition of 10 cars to a road that has become a highway in the 50 years that we've lived out there is absurd. And I know that everybody's concerned about fire. Absolutely, we all are. And last Sunday, as somebody mentioned, there was a little smoke coming out of Shaggy Peak, and it terrified all of us. And but there are other commercial businesses out there that are impacting traffic. For example, Diamante Lumber Mill with the big 18-wheeler trucks that drive 20 miles an hour with huge felled trees on them, and then contractors driving trucks and trailers down the road with the products of that. That definitely impacts our road and our capacity to get out. And Camp Stony, for example, this weekend is having the wonderful traditional music festival, and there will be hundreds of people attending that music festival. And I'm assuming they have a special use permit to do that. But these are all things that happen out there. There's also the Treehouse Camp, and they have, additional people go on their mountain bikes up into the forest. So an additional 10 cars, and I live right across. My driveway is almost directly across from theirs, and we've never had any accidents. We've never had any problems there. So I don't suspect that that's an issue. To compare this project to the AMA project is insane. They were talking about thousands of people coming in for a week and camping and building a 16,000 square foot place to house their activities. So that's just not even, that's apples and dragon fruit or something. Anyway, all to say that road has garbage trucks, propane trucks, dump trucks, concrete trucks, sewage trucks, and everyday cars, bicycles. And all of them make noise, all of them drive fast, all of them wear down the surface, and their motors are loud, the motorcycles are loud. We have people who shoot their guns at 10 o'clock at night, 12 rounds go off, the neighbors. There's plenty out there. This is not Little House on the Prairie. And I so hope that you all will see through to the importance of what is being proposed and the incredible services that that Christina is offering. So thank you very much for your time, your deep consideration, your paying attention to the regulations. Personally, I would have asked for forgiveness. These guys are amazing to go through the process. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Evening. My name is Tony O'Brien. I live on Calle Marisol, which is not very far from their property. And I've come to ask that you give approval. I have been to one of Christina's memorial services, and I have to go along with what everybody said. They're quite touching, respectful.
Sir, can you
quiet.
raise the mic up a little bit?
Touching, respectful, and quiet. As Felicity said, Cañada de los Alamos is not Little House on the Prairie. There's a lot going on out there. And for something like this would not have any great impact on the community at all. 20 people, please. So I just ask you to sincerely consider the application. And thank you all.
Thank you so much. Okay, it doesn't appear there's anyone else that would like to speak. Staff, is there anybody online that is looking to speak?
Vice Chair, there does not seem to be anybody online who wishes to speak on this matter.
Okay, well, with that, we're going to close public comment at this point. And we're going to go back to the commission to ask questions, to dialogue here, or ask questions of staff. Mr. Ruiz, I do need you to come log me back in. I hadn't hit my mouse and...
Yes. I have a question about, so before when the application said 50 people, were they requiring a traffic study at that point?
Vice Chair Trujillo, commission members. So no, when the initial proposal came in at a maximum of 50, there was no requirement of a TIA at that point as well.
Okay, just because of the small amount and, several times a month.
So a general assessment was made during not only our technical advisory committee meeting, but during the application process. And per Chapter 6, Section 6.1.4, discretion of administrator, the administrator shall have the authority to exempt the applicant from a required SRA if the administrator reasonably determines either that the information that they would likely result from the study, report, or assessment is either A, already known and can be supplied by other means, or B, will have no reasonable bearing on the evaluation of the application.
Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioners, anybody have any other questions for staff? Please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I have several questions of staff. I think the first one was already addressed about the traffic impact analysis, so I'll skip that. Sounds like a traffic impact analysis is not required in this particular case. Is that correct?
Vice Chair, Commission members, that is correct.
My next question, following up on that, there's been reference to a permit for an AMA event. Was that a conditional use permit request, or was it a one-time? Does anybody know?
Vice Chair, Commission members, I believe that was a conditional use permit request.
So that would imply that it was not a single day or dates, it was a longer duration or any. Well, for example, you can have, as a permitted use in this zone, you can have a religious institution, right? So the AMA event was something different than that, since it required a conditional use permit?
Yeah, that is correct. I mean, my knowledge on that project isn't, well-versed, but my understanding is that, yes, there was an issue with other events other than what the intended use was, that was kicking it into a conditional use, due to the amount of people attending and amount of complaints gathered from the community.
Thank you. Regarding the traditional community of Cañada de los Alamos, I know other traditional communities have existing plans that have been prepared that provide a bit more of the context than simply what the zoning code says is permitted, conditional, not permitted. Is there such a plan for Cañada de los Alamos?
Vice Chair, Commission members, no, there is no master plan with any, additional uses or exemptions or anything like that. There is no master plan for that area.
So following up on that, it would make sense, at least to me then, that if I were to look at the zoning code, Appendix B, and I look at all the permitted uses in this zone, and I look at all the conditional uses, that's where I'm going to glean some, plus the public hearing, I'm going to glean some insight as to whether this particular conditional use permit would be appropriate in this location.
Vice Chair, Commission members, yes, that is correct.
Finally, I'd like to ask a follow-up question. Just for the record, in staff's opinion, have notification requirements now been met for the public hearing?
Vice Chair, Commission members, yes, noticing has been met and is part of the exhibits in the packet that has been submitted.
A follow-up question to the zoning question. According to Appendix B, retirement housing is a permitted use in the traditional community zone. Retirement housing, is that like a single building? Can you give me some elaboration? Would that be, and that's a permitted use?
Vice Chair, Commission members, I would have to look at the LBCS, which is the land-based planning standards code book, which we use to reference. It does have a reference code there. But typically my understanding of retirement, housing is going to be like a retirement home, much like what you see on the frontage road of 599 near the Aldea subdivision. Typically that's what's going to be considered retirement housing.
Okay. Bed and breakfast inns are permitted use, are they not?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Pava, could you repeat the question?
Bed and breakfast are a permitted use in the traditional community zone, are they not?
Yes, that is correct. According to Appendix B, it is a permitted use.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to go through these because I think it's relevant to the context of what we've been discussing and the impacts on Cañada de los Alamos and Old Santa Fe Trail. Convenience stores apparently are permitted use in the traditional community. Is that correct?
Yes, Vice Chair, Planning Commission members, according to Appendix B, convenience stores are permitted in the traditional community.
It's interesting that a convenience store, what we connote as a convenience store these days, I mean, in the old days, they used to be local mom and pop places that Santa Fe was popular. I mean, there's one or two left. And I think what this is implying is they could go in and apply, and if they meet all the requirements, of course there's septic and water and everything else, but lighting, but it sounds like a convenience store would be a permitted use in this zone. No conditional use hearing required. And of course, I had mentioned earlier religious facilities. That's churches, mosques, synagogues. If they want to have something like that, if I lived out there, I could do that, just as long as I meet other building and code requirements, it sounds like. Is that correct?
Vice Chair, Commission members, yes, that is correct.
Okay. You see where I'm going with this. Thank you for your forbearance. Interestingly, a conditional use in this zone is a household hazardous waste collection facility. They are not asking for that, are they?
Vice Chair, Commission members, no, they are not.
Good. And, interestingly enough, this commission heard the commercial solar energy production facility hearing a while back, and it is a conditional use, but they're not asking for that. Livestock pens and hog houses, conditional use. They're not asking for that. and on and on. So I'd urge my fellow commissioners to peruse Appendix B, and those who were at the public hearing to get a better understanding of the request. That's the end of my questions and comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Pava. Thank you very much. Commissioner Bruger.
So, question of staff. Did Public Works have any comments on this proposal?
Vice Chair, Commission Member Bruger. So the applicant reached out to the Roads Division for Public Works, and they provided them with a traffic count, as the applicant stated, which indicated 1,000 cars per day. And that was, I believe 2 years ago. It is part of the exhibits. I don't have it in front of me right now, but they did indicate that it was about 1,000 cars a day.
Okay. The question, and it might not even be specific to this case, but this case brings it up. The administrator can make a finding that a traffic impact assessment is not required. Well, how come it's the administrator, not roads, Public Works? There might not be an answer to that question, but it's just...
Yeah, Vice Chair, Commission members, yeah, so the code does state, the SLDC does state that the land use administrator does have the authority to exempt any study report, not just necessarily a TIA. It's typically case by case, as many of you were here previously for the last meeting that required a conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit in the Tasuki Village overlay. Obviously, a traffic impact analysis wouldn't be necessary for that, as an accessory dwelling unit in any other overlay or zoning district is just a permitted use.
Thank you. Last question. I'd asked it before. So say there's more than, for whatever reason, something happens, there's more than 20 people or something. There's some kind of a condition that has been approved to has not been met. It happens over the weekend, so you said code enforcement then issues a violation. My question is, if a condition is not met, then again, what are the repercussions of that? And how can it be remedied for future?
Vice Chair, Commission members, so typically when code enforcement is informed of a violation, they'll go out and do an investigation. If they find that the complaint is valid, they'll issue, a notice of violation or a final notice of violation. And typically what happens is the applicant will come in, they'll meet with staff, and we'll identify the issue, and they'll be allowed to do any type of mitigation through any type of measurements that we may find. So it just kind of depends on what the violation could be. For instance, if we're talking about lighting, code enforcement has a light meter. They could go out there and they could see what the requirements are. If they're exceeding their maximum lighting, they could be required to mitigate that by either replacing the bulbs or replacing the type of fixtures if it's emitting too much light or emitting light upward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ruger. Is there any other questions by any other commissioners?
Yeah.
Commissioner La Cruz Crawford.
Thank you. Just to kind of go back to that TI thing, just because I know there's obviously an attorney involved here that mentioned that TI would be required. Maybe a legal question. Am I correct that, again, just to make sure that legally staff is correct, et cetera, and stuff, that a TIA in this particular case is not required? I also did look at the fact that it does mention. There's an asterisk there on the table that does mention to look at the NMDOT State Access Manual. I looked at that briefly. It does seem to my extent that it would not be required, but I just want to hear it from from council.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Vice Chair and Commissioner LaCruz Crawford. Certainly the section that staff referenced for you is applicable. There is certainly a subjective determination that can be made by the land use administrator, hopefully or presumably in consultation with perhaps other departments, Public Works as an example. I'm not saying that took place in this instance. I don't know how the determination was made, but I do think that that subjective flexibility does lie with the land use administrator in this case under the provision cited by staff.
Thank you. And I'll stick with some of the technical stuff right now and stuff, but I was totally hearing what Mr. Pava was saying, Commissioner Pava was saying, as far as all the permitted uses that are here. And, you know, we've got a conditional use permit. It does appear that, you know, staff, and I would also agree that they've met, you know, all the requirements with respect to, you know, an approval for a CUP in this scenario. I was kind of curious, though, with respect to the special use permit scenario. So I understand that the special use permits is under county parks, trails, and open space requirements. It's not necessarily, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's that special use permit requirement. Is it only governed by county parks, trails, and open space? Because obviously this is something that's coming from the fire department, and I'm just wondering, yeah, what you know, where that comes from.
So Vice Chair, Commission members, the special use permit, there's not a provision for the special use permit in the SLDC as far as events. That was more internal policy. You know, in the rewrite of the code, I know it's one of the items that's going to be addressed and made sure it's detailed out. But as far as for events for special use permit, there's not necessarily a provision in the code.
Okay, so no special use permit provision in the SLDC code. It's only under the open county parks, trails, and open space, correct?
Vice Chair, Commission members, yes, that is correct.
Okay. The other part on that, the special use permits, it mentions that it's required for any commercial, recreational, et cetera, for anticipated attendance of 15 or more peoples is what the code mentions. And I bring that up just because I do think this 20-person scenario of that's putting in as a provision to a potential approval seems very low. I also think it's a little bit crazy hearing like what's allowed, what's permitted in this particular area. You know, just the fact that as a private homeowner, I can throw parties. I don't have to have a special use permit, et cetera. You know, so I want to just bring that up, first of all. And I also just want to, I guess, where I'm getting with this is I'm wondering where did that 20-person come from? And then I'm just trying to figure out, is it reasonable or not? Because in this kind of, you know, scenario here where, you know, obviously you've got a retreat, et cetera. Sure, the majority of the events might be under 20, that's fine. But it almost seems to me like if fire department is trying to request a special use permit, then perhaps a special use permit should be for a far more significant amount of people that could come to these events. Like if they want to actually have a wedding, right? And they say, okay, we're going to potentially have 50 people or something like that, then okay, at that point, let's have a special use permit. But if we're dealing with like 20, because it feels like this is a very broad provision that we're saying you're going to get limited 20 no matter what. And then you're going to have a special use permit, all this and that. It seems a little heavy-handed. And it's not necessarily a question, this is just me talking. So, but please, if there's any comments or you know, questions that come about from my comments, please go ahead.
Well, is that, the special use permit, is that going to be a condition?
Vice Chair, Commission members, so yes, that was a condition that again was addressed based on a concern of the fire marshal. But there were discussion with the land use administrator, and she did mention that, you know, if the Planning Commission wishes to amend that condition, we could allow that a one-time special use permit is applied for, and then thereafter we're provided a schedule or notification of when these events happen. That way the fire marshal is aware and they can make a proper inspection with the correct amount of time.
That certainly makes a little bit more sense.
Commissioners, any other questions? So I have a couple of questions for staff. So in the conditions, the number 8, the applicant shall submit a site threshold analysis. I'm for my own knowledge, I'm trying to understand what that means.
Vice Chair, Commission members, so based on concerns, from the neighboring properties, we put that condition in there. But then again, it was then determined that after that condition was made, the applicant reached out to the roads department with Public Works and did the traffic count, and it was identified that a STA, a site threshold analysis, wasn't required and wasn't going to be needed.
Okay, and so that could be amended out of the conditions. Is that correct?
Vice Chair, Planning Commission members, yes, that is correct.
And so I'm looking here, there's, let's see, applicant shall submit a detailed lighting plan which meets requirements of the chapter 7.8, and then number 2, applicant should provide a detailed lighting plan prior to recordation of the CUP. So I'm wondering if those are two different things, or that can be consolidated, or what is that actually? Number 2 and number 6.
Yeah, so Vice Chair Trujillo, Planning Commission members, those are basically the same condition. Condition number 6 is just a little bit more specific as far as, a detailed lighting plan, and, also includes any type of specifications to make sure that the fixtures that are being provided or proposed do meet the requirements of the SLDC. As far as condition number 2, the applicant to provide a detailed lighting plan prior to the recordation of the CUP. That's also just to, show that there is, proper lighting indicated that goes forward and forth through approval. And then they will have to obtain any type of, application or permit with the Construction Industry Division for the electrical, for the wiring, for all the lighting. And so we do want to review that prior to and make sure that all that information is documented and, reverted onto the recorded CUP site development plan.
So Mr. Cisneros, so then you believe that both of those need to be in there the way they're written?
No, Vice Chair, Commission members, we could combine those.
Okay. And Mr. Cisneros, the 20-person, it's kind of, there was a question earlier that was kind of curious, is that somehow this evolved down to the 20 people, and I'm not sure where that came about, but does that 20 people include, if they, as mentioned before, they have, you need help and you have 2 or 3 caterers that come in, personnel, or is that the intent that they're included in the 20?
Vice Chair, Planning Commission members, the intent would be that it would be attendees of the event, the 20 maximum, not to include, the applicants themselves or any staff member that they may have, providing any type of service. Those are strictly for the attendees for the events.
Okay. And so what would be it seems like we already have to amend the conditions depending whether we vote in favor or obviously if we vote in opposition of this, we don't have to amend this, but if we do have to amend these, is it best to amend these individually? Amend the conditions and then vote on the amended conditions, or what would be the process to work this through?
Mr. Vice Chair, I think what makes most sense and would be a permissible approach would be for the commissioners as a group to agree on which amendments to the conditions they think or you think are appropriate. If need be, you could certainly deliberate in executive session on that, or you could discuss it openly. But upon determining what amendments to these conditions you think are appropriate, I think one motion to take whatever action you're contemplating based on the group of amended conditions.
Okay, so, and Roger, so the lighting one that would have to be joined, what would be the language, or how would we come up with the language for that's reasonable?
Whichever of you thinks
we could
you
just
have
remove one of
appropriate
them.
language would make it. Based on the intent that you expressed, assuming it, as long as it's clear enough, we can then craft precise language to present to you when the final order is prepared.
Yeah, it seems like condition 6 is more, basically the same thing as 2. I would delete 2 but does it make sense for us to do a motion first and then?
Well, as I understand it, a motion can be made if depending on the will of the committee, and we're going to discuss this here in a second, but if a motion is made with whatever removal of these conditions out of that, and in combination of the motion to pass, if that is the will of the committee. I do want to make one comment, though. I do feel that, as Commissioner La Cruz Crawford mentioned, that the last one, the one that was added in, seems a little heavy-handed, in my opinion. I just look at, after hearing all the other provisions or allowed provisions in this area, and now, for somebody to have to go in every for a week's time, it just seems a little heavy-handed in my personal opinion. I'm just sharing my personal opinion here. But anyways, we're going to move. I'm done with my questions, and so I'm going to. Is there any other commissioners that have any other questions here?
I just had questions, stuff for just confirmation. So the TAC report does mention the fire marshal's remarks, and they're fairly straightforward, So I mean, it's my understanding the fire marshal did look at this and really didn't have any major concerns, or is there anything that came up during that TAC meeting that's not in this report that you could add light to with respect to any?
Vice Chair, Planning Commission members. So no, during the TAC meeting, none of those addressed concerns really came up. It was really only today, in a conversation with Fire Marshal Blay, that he addressed the concern of requiring a special use permit for each event, or like I mentioned, which could be amended to even just one special use permit, but a notification or scheduling of when those events are booked or made. That way they can make the proper evaluation and inspection of the structures.
And with respect to amending something like that and being a little more specific, like you mentioned, as far as one, or even I'll bring up just even amending, say, the 20 attendee scenario that's currently there. It seems to me that might be, like you mentioned, maybe a special executive meeting where we can kind of address numbers, because I mean that seems a little more detailed than having to sit there and give a motion. Am I wrong or right here with respect to if we're really going to amend something, and can we? I guess would be the question too, right? How much can we amend something like that as far as numbers, or fully amend something in a whole different language, et cetera? And it seems like something like that would require.
Yeah, Vice Chair, Planning Commission members, it would be totally appropriate to go ahead and decide that and go over those conditions in executive session. And again, the conditions are to your discretion as the Planning Commission members. So, any rewording, elimination of a condition or adding of a condition is totally at the discretion of the Planning Commission.
Okay, and then just a follow-up question with that, with respect to the attendees. What other CUPs have come through, here to the board and the county where a limitation to attendees have been placed, or where this recommendation is there any other examples, I guess, with respect to CUPs that have come forward where we have, or the board has, or staff has recommended a reduction or a particular number and limitation with respect to attendees?
I've done it several times, so. Are you done with the, yeah. Commissioner Bruger?
Thank you, Vice Chair Trujillo. We're having a discussion. The one thing I wanted to put out there, think if I'm understanding you right, Commissioner La Cruz Crawford, I would urge not to alter the 20 limitation. That would affect, as I understand it, the analysis that was done by Environment Department as far as for the septic tank and the load in the septic tank. It would affect the water usage. It would affect the applicant's response to it. I mean, they're no longer talking about porta potties because of the limitation to 20. If that limitation was not met, might even affect the traffic and the determination for waiving the traffic impact analysis. So I would urge at least that condition be, if this were to move on, that be held. Thank you.
And Commissioner Bruger, I was just getting clarification on that as far as if help came, if they were included in that, and I got clarification on that.
And I have a question. So if we keep the limit at 20, if they, for some reason, had an event that was proposed that was going to be larger, could they come in for a special use permit?
Vice Chair, Planning Commission members, so with the approval of the conditional use permit, that would just be limited to the 20 attendees. I don't feel that with that condition in place, they would not be allowed to have an event with more than the 20, even with a special use permit.
So, go ahead.
Just one last thing I want to mention to Commissioner Bruger. I appreciate that, I guess, because that was a question before of like, where did that 20-person limitation come from? And I guess I had not heard that, and I guess want to appreciate that. Is that correct, that 20-person limitation did come about because of the septic system analysis and water assessments, et cetera?
Vice Chair, Planning Commission members, so the applicants provided that number in their initial report. And I believe that analysis came from when they reached out to the state engineer's office, for water usage, as well as to NMED for the septic. And so that's where they put a limitation on themselves. If it was over 20 people, then they were going to supply porta potties and purified drinking water for the guests, and I believe facilities for hand washing, I believe, as well. The max out 20, I think, became a condition, or not necessarily a condition, but a recommendation from the hearing officer meeting.
Okay, so just to clarify, when the applicants initially came and they said we were expecting maybe 20 to 50 people, seems like there was maybe some opposition. They did their own diligence that wasn't required, right? So they went to the septic system, to environmental department, and to water use, et cetera. And through that, they decided, okay, we ourselves are going to limit it to 20. So I'm just trying to clarify that it was their own limitation and not the limitation of the agencies.
Vice Chair, Commission members, so in the statement from the applicant, they did state gatherings are 20 or less. We will limit these gatherings to 50 attendees. The condition was implemented by staff, but that was based on the recommendation from the hearing officer. So it was a staff implemented recommendation of 20 max. That recommendation was, revealed over to the applicants, and they are of acknowledgement of that requirement, and they have been in agreement of that requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from commissioners? So what is the will of the commission?
Well, I can start a motion. So I motion to approve the conditional use permit for case 255020 with the changes to the following conditions. We would strike condition 2 since it's redundant with condition 6. We would strike condition 8 because you said it was staff's indicated it was no longer necessary. And I would strike 10, the proposed 10, unless we want to modify it to have a schedule of events supplied. There, instead of having the special use permit every time, if they would provide a schedule of events so the fire department is aware of when those events are taking place. So that I would add that as a condition, 10.
Vice Chair, Planning Commission Perard. So is that to allow a one-time special use permit and then provide scheduling?
Yes.
So how would that be worded, Dominic? And what would it mean?
If I understand the intent, the condition could be worded to require a single special use permit. You may want to put some limitations on that to be renewed annually. In fact, I would have to ask staff if there are time limitations on special use permits, but I think that would need to be considered. And as part of that condition, you would like to impose a requirement that a schedule of events be provided in advance. Is that not accurate?
Yeah, I mean, does that make like logistical sense?
Well, again, staff can speak to the logistics, but I think knowledge in advance is important to the fire prevention.
Commissioner De La Cruz?
I apologize, advise, this is more of a procedural question since I haven't sat on this board for that long. But when a commissioner proposes a motion, other commissioners are not allowed to amend that motion, or are we allowed to have the discussion? Okay.
If we feel like we need to go into executive session to hammer this out real quick, we can do that if that's the will of this committee.
That was my recommendation.
I hear a motion. My initial. So
I motion to go into executive session to discuss further.
To be clear about that process, the appropriate motion would be to suggest that the commission go into executive session in accordance with the Open Meetings Act solely and specifically for the purpose of deliberating on this particular agenda item.
Yes.
Now, I can't make that, but that's how it should be worded.
Okay.
So that specific condition.
So restate your motion.
I motion that this board goes into executive special meeting to discuss only this particular case.
In accordance with the Open Meetings Act.
In accordance with the Open Meeting Act. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that a correct motion, Roger?
That would be appropriate.
Do I hear a second? Okay, no second. Motion fails. So we have a motion on the table. I mean, and as maybe we can get staff to repeat what is removed in the conditions, and we'll put it to a vote. The language that as we see, we're going to see recorded.
I don't have a second yet. No second yet.
Well, I just want to hear this so we can see if we get a second. So everybody understands.
Vice Chair, Planning Commission members, sorry, just writing this out so it makes sense to me as well. So I propose the condition that it's the applicant shall apply for a one-time special use permit and provide a schedule of events that are subject to be subject to inspections or subject to inspections from Santa Fe County Fire Prevention.
Roger, does that?
I mean, it certainly passes legal muster if that reflects the intent of the moving party.
Okay, so we do have a motion. It is a motion for approval of this CUP with, and maybe I will let the commissioner making the first go ahead and restate your motion so that everybody's clear.
Okay, so I motion that we approve. Case, I forgot the number of it already. 25, 50, 20, with the following conditions. I'm having a technical problem here. Wow. Okay. With the conditions as stated, with the removal of condition 2 and 8, and the addition of, I guess that would be.
Staff stated it already,
Yes.
so.
Yeah, with the addition of the condition, I think it'd be condition 8 now.
Okay, and so Dominic, repeat it one more time. I'm going to ask for a second on this motion so everybody knows it.
Applicant shall apply for a one-time special use permit and provide a schedule of events subject to Santa Fe County Fire Prevention.
Do I hear a second? I'll second the motion. Let's put it for a vote. Roll call, please.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion passed. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we'll move to petitions from the floor. Seeing none, matters from the commission. Any matters from the commission? Matters from the attorney?
I have nothing to bring up.
Okay. Our next regular scheduled meeting is, let's see. September 18th, is that correct? Yes. Roger? Okay, September 18th, next scheduled meeting at 4 p.m. right here in this chambers. Any concluding business? Not seeing any. I have a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?